Welcome in Food for Thought. Today I have a very special guest, Valeria. I have been practicing mindfulness with Valeria for more than 2 years now, and I'm happy she will share it with you. So, Valeria, what is mindfulness?
Mindfulness is a state of mind. In scientific papers, they use the definition of paying a non-judgmental attention to the present moment. So being present with what's happening right now and not judging it as good or bad automatically. So for example, right now I'm sitting here and I'm talking to you and I notice that I feel slightly nervous. There's a little bit of a tightness in my stomach because I'm not used to doing things that are recorded. I am aware of a slight noise in my background, and I am fully paying attention to the conversation and paying attention to you and paying attention to what is happening in this moment without automatically judging it. Is that good? Is that bad? Do I look good? Do I, just being with what is in a present and relaxed way. So that's what I associate with mindfulness. Instead of trying to answer, my idea is to do something that can help people experience it. So right now, if you want, you might close your eyes or not close your eyes and just pay attention to what's present for you right now. What is your experience of this moment? What is happening in your body? Like if you notice your face muscles, your shoulders, is there tension there? The surface that you're sitting on, the chair, what is the contact between your body and that chair? What are the sounds in your environment right now? What is the difference between when I am speaking and when I am not speaking? What are the sounds like? Is there a taste in your mouth, like I just drank a sip of tea? Is there any smells in the room? Do you feel any emotions right now? Any feelings, any moods? Maybe you might be feeling something in your emotional landscape that you can clearly name and say, I'm sad or I'm happy. Or maybe there is just some feelings that you know that are there, but you cannot really name what they are. So right now I feel slightly nervous. I feel some tension in my throat, neck area, maybe a little bit in my chest, because I'm not very used to being on recording. What is present for you in this moment? So as I open my eyes right now, I can see the Zoom screen with Kara's face. And I might notice that besides the image, there's the monitor of the computer, there's the wall behind it, there's a lamp, there's my own image in the screen. There is the room that I am here right now. There is the world out of my window. As I am guiding this meditation, there are all the associations. There's something in me that is feeling into what I want to say, feeling into how I say it. And as I am here with you right now, I'm not overly concerned about how am I being perceived. I'm not concerned about if I'm doing a good job or if I'm not doing a good job, and just observing it. Just paying attention to what's there. Non-judgmental awareness of the present moment, moment to moment to moment to moment, as it reveals itself to me. So that's a little bit of an example of what being mindful in this moment, right now, because mindfulness is something that you can only do right now. You cannot be mindful in the future and remembering that time when you were meditating or when you were on your meditation retreat and that's so mindful. That's not mindfulness. Making definitions is not mindfulness. Mindfulness as you experience this moment right now. What is present for you right now? That's what mindfulness is. At least the best way that I can try to describe it and help you experience it.
It feels like a non-judgmental descriptive mode that you switch your brain to. Kind of.
You don't even need to describe it. It can be helpful as a mindfulness practice to describe it to yourself, what's happening. But as you get deeper and deeper and deeper into the practice, you don't need words for it. You just know. You just know what's happening. You know how you're feeling. You know how your body is. You know the world. You don't need words for it. But as a mindfulness practice to help you anchor you in the moment, describing your experience to yourself or to other people. There are practices when what you do is describe our experience to other people. That can be a helpful practice. But the mindfulness itself, it's just the being with, the knowing, and we don't need words for it.
Why do you think it's important?
Imagine that you're walking in a beautiful scenery and your mind is actually somewhere else. You're thinking all kinds of things. And you're not paying attention to the scenery, you're not paying attention to the sunset, you're not paying attention to how you feel. You're not really present with what's happening there. You're wasting your life, basically. Life is happening right in front of you, and you're not paying attention to it. Or you might be missing opportunities that are disclosing themselves to you because you're just not paying attention. If you do not have some awareness of your body in the moment, you don't know how to take care of it properly. A lot of people have back pain because they sit in a posture that strains their back, but they don't pay attention to it. They are not aware of it. And then they keep in that posture that it's not good for their body over and over and over again. And they are just putting stress in their body all the time, and they don't notice because they don't have this mindfulness of the body. Or another example. If you're driving and you're not paying attention, that's a lot of how many accidents happen. The main things that I think why mindfulness is important is because it gives you some freedom to act in the world creatively as opposed to just reactively. So if you're doing everything just automatic, just reacting, just reacting out of old patterns, if you have a little bit of mindfulness of your reaction, that can create a little bit of the space so that you can act differently and have more options and have better ways of engaging with the world. You can respond different to the situation. You can respond different to people. You can have a little bit of distance before acting impulsively. I don't know, on eating the chocolate or buying unhealthy things at the supermarket. because you have this, you gain agency and you gain choice if you have this contact with yourself and this contact with the world that mindfulness can bring you. That would be some ideas of why I think it's important.
Thank you. I kind of imagine that mindfulness helps you to build the future somehow, to create the future, which is being in the now, because in the now, whatever you do in the now will build your future.
Yeah, Ajahn Brahm, my first meditation teacher, he used to say that we spend so much time thinking about the future and neglect the fact that we are building the future right now. So if we're always there, we don't realize that the future is being built right now.
Thank you. I absolutely love that.
Brahm.
Shut out. So when we go through our day building our futures, we can employ some practices that would actually increase the mindfulness, kind of imprint the habit of returning to here and now. Like one of them that I know is if you are engaged on Twitter and you see comment and you absolutely need to respond, put out your phone and breathe and focus on here and now. That's the practice I love most. Helped me a lot and really improved my Twitter experience.
How about if everybody did it, wouldn't the world be a better place?
So what are the practices you would advise to people or find valuable for yourself?
Well, meditation is the classical one, right? Sitting down and being mindful of your breath, that helps you train your attention, both to have a little bit more agency of what you pay attention to and where your mind is at. Because a lot of people who had never tried meditation, they think it's easy. Sit down and just pay attention to your breath for 10 minutes. How can that be difficult? If I want to think something, I will think something, right? And then you try it and you watch like 2 breaths and your mind goes wandering somewhere else. So that's the first benefit of this practice, helping you understand how your mind works and how little control you have over it, or the kind of things that you can influence in your mind works different than normal attention would give us the impression that they work like that. So meditation is an important one. There are other things that you can do day to day, like the Twitter thing. It's brilliant. That should be more advertised for. There is moments of your day where you can explicitly do that, paying attention to what you're doing. A classic one is brushing your teeth. While you're brushing your teeth, pay attention to the taste, pay attention to the smell, the movement that your hand makes, the feeling of, you can have some sensation of the brush touching your teeth. Normally that's something that we do very automatically, but you can also do it with the other hand. And pay attention to, yes, there are things that you can try to do. Or if you want to be playful, you can try it.
With feet?
It's very interesting.
If you want to be playful, we can try it with feet.
No, try brushing your teeth and paying attention, brushing your teeth with the other hand. You can try it.
Okay.
It's very interesting.
I mean, I have electric brush, it's okay.
But even with the electrical brush, the sensation is completely different if you do it with one hand or with the other hand. And that can give you an experiential feeling for how we do things in autopilot so much that we don't even notice that we are doing them anymore. So those little things, doing it differently, doing something that you're very used to in a different way, that can bring some mindfulness in what you're doing. A playful thing that you can do is do something very slowly. So if you're making the bed, you can make the bed very slowly.
I like, I mean, that's an excellent practice. But the moment you describe doing anything slowly gives me anxiety because I immediately, my mind goes to, oh my God, if you will do something very slowly, you will have a need to overcompensate and do everything super fast. And then like being quickly. But there is something to it. Doing things slowly, being in the moment and paying attention to what are you doing. Wow. I never
Paying
thought of
attention
it.
to what you're doing. That's it.
Yeah.
That's the important aspect of it. Allowing your attention to be with what you're doing and not being somewhere else all the time. Now, what I'm not saying is that one should live a spontaneous life without planning anything ever. I'm not saying that. That is one criticism that people often have of mindfulness practices. That's just about being in the moment and never planning anything and never thinking about the past or the future. That's not what it is about. But even when you're doing planning, you can sit down and do the planning. And while you're doing the planning, that's what you're doing. Because one thing that we do, we sit down to plan something and then we start thinking about all kinds of things, right? Start thinking about, I want to plan my week, and I start thinking about what I did yesterday. Or I want to plan what I am going to do for the day, and I start thinking about the vacation that I will do in the middle of the year. So mindfulness, you can do mindful planning. Just allowing yourself to be present with the planning, to be there with the thing that you're doing, instead of having your mind all over the place, thinking all kinds of things and not paying attention to what you're doing.
I always imagined mindfulness in planning as being aware of the circumstances, like proper representation and of what's here and now, including the facts that and knowledge that you picked up from your past. So if you're planning something in Portugal, you will reach to the memory of everything you know about Portugal, of all the friends, but you focus mindfully on that. You will reach into the future with the mindful awareness in case of rain, in case of sun, in case of good or bad weather in the future. So taken into account, but mindfulness would be the directing where you focus your attention. So the way you decide to throw away unnecessary things.
Yeah. So I was thinking about an unmindful planning of going to Portugal. So I said, okay, I'm going to plan my trip to Portugal. And then you sit there and you start thinking about, oh, I need to do the laundry. No, but the laundry is, if I do the laundry today, then I cannot go to the movies. Oh yeah, that movie that I watched was really good. But I have to talk to my friend about it. Oh yeah, no, that friend reminds me of the other friend that I am not talking to. What should I do? No. Yeah, I'm really angry about that friend. And I'm also angry about my dog who
Oh my
and in
God.
the end, after half an hour, you have not gotten anything done, but you are exhausted.
And then you're like, I hate planning. The the final, you make the wrong conclusion. Somebody else should plan it for me. It should be a service. Otherwise, I will be frustrated about my dog each time because, pattern recognition.
I didn't even got into politics and the world and the weather and then you don't get any of the planning done. And you also don't feel good about yourself. And you don't feel good about the world, and you don't feel good about anything. Nothing gets done, and you get exhausted.
Oh. It's so is overthinking the opposite of mindfulness then?
Yes. The rumination.
Rumination.
Rumination is the opposite of mindfulness. When the mind gets in this loop of thinking things over and over and over again, and if you observe it, it always comes back to the same point. You're always thinking the same thoughts when you're in a rumination loop. It doesn't get anywhere. It just turns around and around and around and around.
Okay, that's a good analogy. So the rumination loop and mindfulness would be the hand that would get you out of the loop and place you in the place of here and now.
I like that. I like that. Mindfulness would be the stepping outside and looking at like, oh my God, that's the 5th time that I am thinking the same thought. It's not going anywhere. It's just getting me more agitated, but it's not solving any problem. It's just making me feel bad. Yeah. How about I stop thinking right now and just feel whatever is it that it's driving my thoughts? Why am I, instead of thinking about how bad my friend is, it's like, yeah, I am upset. And if sometimes when I feel upset and I allow myself to feel in my upsetness, behind that there's anger, behind the anger, there's hurt. There is a feeling of, I'm hurt that my friend treated me like that. It hurts. It was a person that I like and he did something that I didn't like, or something that was not caring for my feelings, that was not caring for what's important for me, and I feel hurt. And sometimes I even notice that this hurt is even older than my friend. This hurt is maybe connected to a time when I was a teenager and I was a bit weird and a bit nerdy, and in school I got isolated, or I got
judged.
Yeah, when I did not get accepted. It reminds me of times when I was a teenager, when I felt that I was not accepted, that I was not part of anything, that I was unfairly judged. You know how teenagers can be clumsy and trying to find who they are. So that stepping back, instead of just yelling or getting into a big fight, might give me the chance to find out how do I feel, and what is part of it is related to my friend, and what part of it is related to other things in my life, other projections, other parts of my history, other things that feel important to me but are not being paid attention to. That might help my conversation with my friend. And that might help just understand myself better, understand the world better. And that's super important, right? That's something that's super valuable.
In a conversation, when we are mindful of our past and of the triggers in us, when we are talking to a friend, knowing what might trigger us, sometimes it's helpful to focus on that, what I noticed. When the friend really triggering something ancient in us, and if we wanted to stop just say it in the moment, as opposed to suffer on the inside. But I find it still very difficult because the trauma-related triggers, they are very high energy. They rise so much that they clutter mindful understanding of what actually is going on. They kind of rewrite it. So instead of saying to a friend, your words right now triggered a trauma that had been present in me for many years. I'm dealing with it slowly, but that doesn't help. How can we find another way of communicating that is beneficial to both of us? Because I'm sure you would not like me when I'm all emotional. I don't want you to go through that experience. I can either go away and hide, but the thing will repeat itself. Can we work it out? So that would be a mindful response, but it's absolutely unlikely because the trauma, the stronger the trauma is, the harder it is to be mindful.
I can tell you how those practices have helped me with my husband.
Mm-hmm.
Because the closest the person is, the more they have the capacity to activate things that are very deep in us. Right? That there's this interesting phenomenon that the more you like somebody, the closest you are, the more they have the power to go very deep into your heart. So one thing that sometimes happened with my husband was that we would have a fight, and if it happens that something gets touched in his heart and something gets touched in my heart that doesn't match, we might end up escalating and getting more angry and getting more angry, and really having the feeling that that person is not paying attention to me. They don't know what's important for me. They are not here with me, which is true. And you are also not there with them, but that you don't see, right? Because each one of us is caught in their own past projection of whatever has happened when we were a child. Maybe there was this time when my father did not pay attention to me, and this time when his mother did not pay attention to him. And now I am not paying attention to him because I am in the same emotional state of when my father did not pay attention to me. And he is not, and I am not paying attention to him, and he is not paying attention to me because he's also caught in his childhood experience. So we are both not paying attention to each other and getting upset at each other because we are not paying attention. And that we can just keep going and getting louder and maybe even getting hurtful. Because in this wish for attention, what a little bit of mindfulness can help is to notice that, hey, right now I am very agitated, I'm very angry, I'm very caught into my own emotions right now. I'm not thinking clearly, and I'm afraid to hurt you, or I am feeling hurt by your reaction. Let's just take a break, stop what we're doing right now. I know that there is this strong urge to resolve the situation, but let's take a break, like you put your phone down when you got reactive on Twitter. I can put down the fight. I can give it a break, give it some time to think, some space. Go for a walk, listen to music, sit down to meditate. And meditation is probably going to be very difficult because I'm angry. So watching the anger in my body. What does my body feel like right now? My shoulders are tense, my forehead is tense. I have difficulty breathing. My breath is shallow. My heart feels constricted. I cannot feel the love. I even feel a wish, an impulse to hurt. Just being aware of those things. without judging, am I a bad person? Am I a good person? Is my husband a bad person? Is my husband a good person? Because right now I cannot see him clearly. I can only see through the anger. So instead of seeing through the anger, I take a step back and I look at the anger, how it reflects in my body. And after a few minutes, that might help you calm down a little bit. And you could go for a walk and listen to music. And he, because we have a really good relationship, I know that he is doing the same thing. So he's also calming himself down and trying to get into a more level-headed space. And then we can come together again and try to remember that we love each other and why we are together. And from that more loving space, more cooperative space, try to understand what the real problem is.
Mm. Excellent. I kind of imagine the anger state as a blindfold with a lot of stains from many fights, many traumas with other people, with parents, with colleagues, and that blindfold does not allow us to see a person in front of us. And mindfulness would be like taking the blindfold and putting it away, and then looking at the person who is in front of you and seeing, oh, you're also hurt, and you're closer to me than I thought. Like, kind of feeling the anger, empathizing with that anger you both felt. That's almost a transformative experience, I think. It's one of the most kind of highlights, like aha moments, when you do it for the first time. When you practice it, of course those happen, but each time you practice it, you take out the blindfold in the middle of the fight. I remember Jordan was talking about fights with Tammy, his wife, and he said, like, we'd be fighting and throwing arguments at each other, and then Tammy would say a joke, and it would be a hilarious joke, and 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 then what do you do with that? And then we laugh, and then we kind of diffuse the situation. So for Tammy, taking out the blindfold would be to find humor and to say the joke. And for him, it would be, aha, that's the moment. That's the blindfold off moment. And I think it's a practice as well.
It's more than blindfold. It's like wearing glasses. You can still see something, but what you see is distorted. Sometimes it will have a different color, or sometimes it will have stains. So you think that you can still see, but what you see is completely distorted by the dirt in the glasses. And then you take away the glasses and you look at them. Mindfulness is the thing that allows you to take away the glasses and look at them, and maybe you can just clean them and then put them back on and have a more clear view of the situation, a clear view of the other people, a clear view of yourself.
Still think like your glasses have stains and you're like cleaning up the stain. So this stain, I'm cleaning up the stain from that fight. This is the stain from another fight, and you like mindfully cleaning the stains from your glasses. I mean, that sounds like a fun practice.
In my mindful relating practice that we do together, Karen, one of the things that I like to do is that to point people at is like, if something pushes your buttons, you don't need to look at the person that is pushing your buttons. You don't need to look at the situation that is pushing your buttons. You can look at the buttons. You can look like, what got touched in me? What is it that, where is that, this doll that you can press there's a little box and you can press a button and something springs out of it. How is it called? There's
Jack in a box.
Jack in a box, exactly. Yeah. So every one of us has a Jack in a box button that if somebody presses it, we are going to explode. I don't know if it's every one of us, but a lot of us, most of us, will have some weak spots that if you press them, you're going to explode. You can learn where those buttons are. And when they get pressed, you don't need to explode. You can take a step back and say, hey, that is the thing that I tend to explode about, and have a little bit more agency over it. That can make all the difference.
And for the people who like to press the buttons, practice not doing that. That's also a good practice.
The people that like to press the buttons can get disarmed when the buttons stop working.
I want to talk a little bit more about mindfulness in a conversation, how we kind of redirect our attention to here and now, and how it helps us.
Right now. What is, yeah, that reaction that you had. I said right now, and then you nodded, and then it's like, what? That moment. That is the moment. As we are here talking to each other right now. How do you feel? What is your body like? How is your mind? How is your emotions?
My body is slightly leaning forward. It's because I want to hear better. I know it's counterintuitive since my headset is on here, but somehow I want to be more engaged, and my body subconsciously responds to that thing by leaning forward, and that's probably my face like so much in the camera right now. Plus, I'm listening to the knowledge that to the information you are trying to give, and yeah. And that sounds very exciting because I don't know what you're gonna say next. There is no way. And it's like a little discovery. So I'm listening. Okay, what is the new discovery? What is the new discovery each time? And that was interesting. Is that mindfulness?
Yeah.
Oh,
that's it. Why is it mindfulness? You knew what your body was doing. You were aware that you lean forward when you pay attention. You were aware of your mental state, like, I'm interested, I don't know. You were open. You did not know what was going to happen. You were not planning what you were going to say. You were just listening to what was happening, listening both to what I was saying and to how you were responding. There's a lot of mindfulness in that.
Yeah, been practicing for 2 years now. Very consistently, for which I'm very grateful. I think there was only a couple breaks for summer holidays, which would be like just few weeks. And that's it. But then every Friday, consistently, helped me a lot. Before the practice, I was different in a conversation. My conversation with others was focusing on me presenting myself and my argument somehow. Look, what interesting things I have to say. Well, with mindfulness practice, it was direct your attention to where you are, with whom you are, people in your surroundings. Even if they are in a Zoom call, they are still alive. They're not a representation, a shadow on the wall. They're actual people. Be aware of them being people, not your imaginary kind of audience and stuff. Like, get out of this superficial framing. And experience of a conversation got much better, actually. Way more rewarding. Instead of replaying little movies in my head and focusing the attention outward, I started learning more, massively enriched my experiences in a conversation. It used to be called circling. So why is it called mindful relating? No?
So there is a practice there are two main groups that do practices named circling. There is one in Europe and one in the United States, and they have recently trademarked that word circling. So I personally do not have any official circling training. So what I do, what I used to do, I called it circling experiments. And it was mainly me trying to experiment with my understanding of circling and trying to use the techniques that I had learned from circling and play with them, try to do different things. And over time, I noticed that one thing that is very dear to my heart is this focus on mindfulness and presence. So circling is very related to connection explicitly. So one of the circling principles that I think from Circling Europe is a commitment to connection and commitment to be in connection with the other person. With the mindful relating, connection is also important, but I want to give as much importance to the connection to the self as to the connection to the other person. We also, I combine also some elements from emergent dialogue from Thomas Steiniger and Elisabeth Dobold, emergent dialogue, which is paying attention to the thing that happens between us in a group. So as we are sitting there together as a group, something starts, if you tune your attention to it, you can feel something starting to go here. And sometimes in the end, sometimes what it was that we were circling around, what was the through line through our conversation, what was the thing that was binding the groups together. Sometimes it doesn't become clear until the end, but we can feel it. Before we can name it, we can feel it. Somehow we are in the same space. And being able to tune into that space, the space between us, the we, without losing the I, without losing the connection to oneself. And sometimes there is tension, right? Because the group is in a different energetic, emotional space than you are. And like everybody is doing this happy thing and I'm feeling very heavy. Or everybody is melancholic and I'm feeling very joyful. Sometimes there is this, yeah, it can happen. There's this connection between what I'm feeling and what the group is feeling. And I want to use mindful techniques to be in that space, notice that tension, respect that tension, respect that whatever the group is cohering around and what I am feeling right now, they are both important. There is not one that is more important than the other. They are both important. And I can feel part of the group, even if I am in a different energy, mindful, or energy, emotional space than they are. For example, by naming that, I notice that there is this happiness in the room, but I am feeling very heavy right now. And that makes me feel disconnected. And just by naming that, the other people might pick that up, and then what is happening in the room changes. Maybe right now, instead of happiness and joy, there will be connection and warmth, or concern and warmth. So they do not necessarily pick up on my sadness and on my heaviness, and I'm not putting everybody down. I'm just switching it to a different kind of positive emotion, which is the care and the concern. And now we are back feeling connected again. But in order to do that, one thing that it's important is for us to take the time. Really pay attention to what I feel and pay attention to what is happening in the group. Really develop this listening, this careful listening, this presence, this being with what's happening without judging it too harshly. Because it might be like everybody is happy and I'm feeling heavy, so I'm the Debbie Downer of this group and that nobody's going to like me. Or it can be a little bit arrogant. Like this group is a bunch of superficial people, and I am here with the depth of my sadness. And all of it can happen. All of the things are things that can get in the way of connecting to yourself and to the group at the same time. What is present for you right now, Kara?
It's just like it brought me a lot of joy. I remember how diverse the group is, how many colors it brings into that painting of our each meeting, and it's beautiful. Even the saddest moments, I have lived through the sad moments and came out feeling much better, and it's human. There is no magic happening there. Just like normally our social connection that is missing actually in day-to-day life, that actually people coming together and being present with each other feels like bonfire, as Tito from Mindful Relating Practice names us. He names us all people around a bonfire, kind of bonding. Interesting.
There's a lot of respect. What I try to bring in there is a lot of respect. Respect for everything that's happening. Respecting for I'm feeling disconnected from that group. That is not wrong. There's nothing wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with the group. It's just what's happening there in this moment. And that's okay. And because we take this 1.5 hours to just be with what is, so much reveals itself to us. The fullness of life, all the possibilities of human experience, the diversity. It's beautiful to see how different we are, how different our perspectives are, and still connect with what we have in common. That is something that I'm always amazed about. The differences do not get in the way of each other. We don't fight over what is right. Like an orchestra doesn't fight, is the violin right, is the drum right, is the piano right. They are playing the same music and being harmonious and beautiful because of their diversity.
Different voices. That brings me to another topic I wanted to talk about: Dialogos. I heard about Dialogos first from John Vervaeke, and then I joined practices also run by you on a Discord server. So tell me a little bit about Dialogos. What is it?
The way John talks about Dialogos is any conversation that takes the people participating in the conversation places that they would not arrive on their own. So that's the fast definition that John gives for it. Now, the long explanation he gives in the After Socrates series, and I think maybe from episode 2 to episode 8, he was talking about it. So about 6 hours, or maybe even more. So it's not, because what is this kind of conversation that can take us somewhere deeper that we would never be able to arrive on our own? What makes this kind of conversation? That is something that there is much to be said about it, but unfortunately there is no manual of instruction on how to do it. I can tell a little bit more about what Dialogos is and what Dialogos is not. So one common misconception is that Dialogos is a kind of conversation where people are just agreeing with each other. Yeah, I've heard people.
Well,
using
it's the opposite of the echo chamber, actually. Like,
do you want to say more?
I mean, the thing where people agree with each other, it's echo chamber. People keep enhancing each other's beliefs, and they actually delude themselves. They go into self-deception. But when you bring out people of different life experiences, views, and hear each other out, actually hear each other out,
Yeah.
not in order to convince, but in order to enrich your own understanding. So like, we don't have to all agree with each other to enhance our beliefs. It's the aim, like, should be to enrich our understanding, to see it from different angles. More eyes is better than just two eyes,
Yes,
or eyes that keep agreeing. Yeah.
Some people might think that Dialogos is just people thinking about, oh, Kara, you are so amazing. Oh, thank you, Valeria, you are so amazing too. And we're just reinforcing each other and admiring each other's ideas and getting into these reinforcing patterns. But that's not what Dialogos says. It's not just talking nicely and agreeing with each other. As we said, the most important thing is the deep listening to what the other person has to say. And deeply listening to what feels true for me. At the same time, because people, we can fall on both sides, right? We cannot pay enough attention to what the other person is saying, but we can also fall short on not paying enough attention to what feels true to me. Because I don't want to appear as somebody who is picking up a fight or controversial or not paying attention to what feels true for me, just taking everything that the other person says as it is. So having both there. And then trying to communicate that in the spirit of, hey, we are in this together. Both of us want to understand deeply this topic that we're talking about. And both of us recognize that we are insufficient to understand it on our own. So you really, if you have this cup, you can see the handle. I cannot see the handle. So when you're telling me about the handle, instead of me thinking that, no, that I don't know what you're talking about, therefore it doesn't exist. And at the same time, I'm telling you there is a little white dot here. It's like, why there's a white dot in the cup that explodes? Like, well, because there's this little chipped spot here. And if we are willing to acknowledge the perspective of the other, then we have a more complete view of the cup that we would never have been able to reach on our own. That is the true essence of the Dialogos. Not agreeing, not disagreeing, but listening, both to the in and to the out. And then, yeah, a perspective might emerge where both of us see together something that we could not see before. In the same way that the right eye and the left eye see slightly different pictures. And because they see slightly different pictures, that's why we have the 3D perception. That's the emergent property of their differences. If you could see only the same thing with both eyes, you would not be able to see the depth of it. So, yeah, that's what I would say about Dialogos.
Well, a good conversation takes practice, art of the good conversation. And the good conversation is not aimed to convince another of that point of view where you only see the white dot. To a person who only sees the handle, that's impossible. People actually do have different perspectives. But enriching both of yours understanding, that's the aim of the good conversation, Dialogos. Can you tell me a little bit more about dialectic into Dialogos practice that is every Monday on the Discord server?
That's an exercise that Professor John Vervaeke has created, and it consists of us exploring a virtue together. So we choose a virtue, and then we take turns, one person speaking, and the other person actively listening and actively trying to get the most out of what the speaker's view on the virtue is, like really trying to draw out their perspective, their definition. So when I am the listener, I don't agree or disagree or try to put my own things there. I'm just really trying to understand. Kara, tell me, what is your understanding of this virtue? What is your proposal for what this virtue is? And then we do that in turns. And in the end, we have a free-flowing conversation about the things that we have learned from all the people who have talked. The goal is not to come up with a definition, but to see what emerges in the conversation, because people have been trying to talk about what the virtues are for thousands of years, right? It's very unlikely that we are going to get to something better than everything that has been said. But our understanding gets enhanced by deeply being with the perspective of other people. That's a little bit the idea of what this practice is about.
My favorite part about this practice is how structured it is.
It's very structured.
Everybody has a timer, and everybody gets the same amount of time to speak on an issue. And this is very valuable because people who are shy, who do not get enough time to express themselves, can actually flourish in this sort of practice. I find it very valuable. Also, people who like to dominate a conversation have a chance to listen, which is also very valuable.
People who are shy, they often think a lot about things, because the more extroverted people, they are in the world doing things and being very spontaneous, and the introverted people often have a deeper integration. So when they speak, if they have the chance to fully have the time to express themselves, they often have very interesting things to say. It's worth giving them the time.
Thank you. Thank you, Valeria, for telling us about mindfulness, about Dialogos, and mindful relating. I will provide the link below to the Discord where you can learn more. It's still in the works. If you want to help, any help is welcome. And yeah, see you in the next Food for Thought. Bye.
Imagine that you are that you're walking around and you're thinking all kinds of things, and you are thinking about something that happened and something that will be in the future. And there's a person talking to you, and you're talking to them. You're not really listening to what they're saying. You're half planning what you're going to do for dinner, half remembering the walk that you did yesterday with your dog, or the fight that you had with your neighbor, and just nodding and pretending to pay attention. And when you pay attention, it's just to plan what you're going to answer to what they're going to say. You're not really listening to what they're saying, right?
Mindful relating as a practice. We do it every Friday. I will provide the link to the Discord server where it's announced, but the number of places is limited and we are always full. But still, I mean, just if 1 week you like to join us and we have place, of course, you're welcome to.